Morena, good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Community and Services Committee. Nice to see you all again. Councillors, even though our numbers are a little bit depleted this morning. Morning to you all. Councillor Wong, Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Barry, nice to see you all. Staff, good morning to you. Thank you for your report, which we'll get to very shortly on our agenda item this morning. Morning to any media that might be out there listening. Thank you for taking an interest, and to our governance advisor, Sarah. Thank you for being here today. And also to our General Manager of Community and Services, Mr. Ken Bailey, who joins us via Zoom. Morena, Ken.
Morena, Chair. Thank you.
Apologies first off. We do have a couple of apologies from Councillor Cody Tucker and Councillor Lisa Guy, which have been received. And we just need a resolution that the apologies be accepted. We have a mover. Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. And a seconder, Councillor Bruce. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Declarations of conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest? No conflicts of interest this morning. Matters lying on the table. There are no matters lying on the table this morning. Public forum. We've received no public forum requests for this agenda item this morning. Confirmation of the agenda, that the agenda be confirmed without addition or alteration. Do we have a mover? Councillor Wong, seconder. Councillor Whitehead, thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Carried, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Community and Services Committee held on the 21st of September. The resolution is that the minutes of the 21st of September 2023 Community and Services meeting be confirmed as a true and correct record. Do we have a mover? Councillor Whitehead, a seconder. Councillor Wong, all those in favour? Carried. Right, we get to our agenda item this morning. Just to familiarise yourselves with it, which I'm sure you all are anyway, but for those that are listening in this morning, the notice of intent to prepare a reserve management plan for the Riverside Road Reserves in Frankton here in Queenstown. The report's author is Jessica Hughes-Hutton, Parks and Reserves Planner. Jessica will be presenting the report this morning. We'll ask staff to come to the table. The purpose of this report is to recommend that a notice of intent is published advising that a reserve management plan for the Riverside Road Reserves is to be prepared in accordance with section 41.5 of the Reserves Act 1997. That the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, recommend to Council that a notice of intent is published advising that a reserve management plan for the Riverside Road Reserves is to be prepared in accordance with the Reserves Act 1977. Good morning, staff. Jessica, Brianna, Jenny, nice to see you. John down the back. Over to you. Anything to add to your report or anything you'd like to talk to?
Sure, thank you. Kia ora koutou. Just to remind you that the process for developing reserve management plans requires Council to first publicly notify its intention, and then we will open up for initial ideas from the community early next year to help staff prepare an initial draft. The draft would then go out for formal public consultation and a hearing, with the hope that a final reserve management plan could be in place by the end of 2024. Park staff and Councillor Ferg have met with the Young family, and staff also met with Remarkables Park Limited to discuss the RMP process, and have sent an email to the Frankton Community Association to let them know of our intention to prepare a reserve management plan. Also, something to note is that Council resolved to prepare a reserve management plan for this area at the full Council meeting held on the 14th of December 2017. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for all staff's work on this agenda item. I think it's just worth noting from the chair this morning, whilst I gather this could be relatively straightforward, and that will all be unfolding in front of us shortly. But I just want to speak about the role that the Young family have played in our community for many a decade. The late Ivan Young, of course, his work in this community stretches back a long time, not only around that zoological gardens land, but through a number of community projects and work that's been done over that long period of time that the late Ivan Young was with us, and his imprint on our community as it sits today is pretty strong. Over the years, I've got beside Rachel and Penny, his two daughters, who've been running the zoological gardens and have been there and witnessed the hard work that they've done with that area of land over a long period of time. And that stems from being there when the bad boys, as they called them, those that were on community service, were out there regularly to do work for them that they were struggling to do themselves. To see the work that they did with the youth of our community over the years, with the zoological gardens being what they were, the role that played in community groups and school kids in particular getting through and having this outdoor experience as only an education as only Rachel and Penny could provide. So I'd like to acknowledge the work that Rachel and Penny have done. I know this is a pretty testing time for them, but we've been alongside them. Thank you, staff. We've tried to take them through this, and we just hope that they have some say in this reserve management plan, because it's land that sits pretty closely with them. So thank you for the opportunity to say that. Councillors, any questions of staff this morning?
Thank you. Thank you through the chair. I've got a few questions, if that's all right. So acknowledging also the Young's work, but I guess I'm just trying to understand some of the complications that unfold if there's no sensitivity around that. So I guess talking about the actual land, we've got Young's lease comes to an end at what point?
The lease has already ended.
Okay.
It ended in December 2022.
Yeah.
And it's not being renewed.
Okay. And could you just talk me through, I remember reading something about the footprint of their house being, yeah, I just don't really understand the logistics of that parcel of land.
Sure, that if you go down near the river, there's one parcel which has been named the Ivan Young Zoological Reserve, and that there contains some significant trees, and then neighbouring that is another parcel of land that currently has the trail in it. Remarkables Park Limited are looking to build a jetty down the bottom there, and then you come I guess to the west slightly, and there is the Youngs are on a freehold section, so that's excluded, and then there's road reserve heading down to that parcel, and then it heads back into the other parcels as we sort of move back up. So there is access down to either through the road reserve, but we won't include the road reserve in the plan. So the parcels that you can see marked on the map are just the reserve parcels that will be
so
included in
the
the plan.
property of the Youngs on the freehold land is outside of the reserve?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, that's what I wanted to understand. Okay, that's there. Okay, thank you. And then am I okay to keep asking a couple of questions?
Yes.
So from a process point of view, thank you, because you explained the process in a bit more detail, which isn't in the report, so that's helpful. So you said we'll kind of informally go out to community first, is that right? Before we then open up for a consultation?
Yes, so we would open up for initial ideas from the community as part of the public notification, and then that would help inform our first draft, which would then go out for more formal consultation.
Okay.
And just to add to that, we'd look to maybe hold a workshop or working with the community association. We're just doing a similar thing for Mount Iron at the moment. So we'd run a process and gather people's ideas to feed into the draft.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's my last question. So Project Manawa has got a land strategy around it with a land swap with Riverside Road land adjacent to Abbeyfield. How does that fit into this, or is it separate?
So at the moment, because that land it's outside of this plan, but if it were to be listed as reserve, we would then just do an amendment to this plan to include that parcel. So we were aware of that process, and we'll run this process, but it would just be a slight amendment to include that into the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, that parcel.
Okay, thank you. I guess my only concern around that is that we haven't sought any community consultation on whether that land should become reserve status. And that just gets a bit complicated because that's currently under Manawa consultation. And this will follow at a later date. So it just means that the community doesn't necessarily have a say on that parcel.
Through the chair, what we would do is at the moment we'd run this plan with the parcels that we have indicated in the report, and then depending on the outcome of that process with Project Manawa, if it was to become reserve, then we would do a minor amendment to this plan and the community could feed into that, so there would be a chance to comment.
Yeah, I get that. I guess it's outside of this. It's just that the community doesn't actually have a chance to comment on whether it should become reserve through any of our processes, which sits outside of this.
Yeah,
but I guess it's a gap which neither strategies speak to. So it's something that's being moved forward without being in either consultation. And I would guess that most of the Frankton community would want it to become reserve, but the consultation actually hasn't happened with regards to that. So I just wanted to speak to that. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, if it's okay, what we can do, Councillor, is actually take on board your point there and actually link in with the program manager of the Manawa and just make sure we've come back and responded to the question you've just asked of us.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I also did that at full council meeting, the one prior to this one, so it would be good. I'd love that to be acknowledged. Thank you.
Yes, no, we can do that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Wong. Thank you, Esther.
Chair, thank you very much. Just wondering whether you could speak to any conflicts or issues with the termination of that lease with the Young family, and have they been resolved, or is there anything still outstanding?
Their lease expired and they decided not to request a renewal, and they have now taken anything they had off the site, and so they're amenable to that at the moment, and have moved on from that.
Do we know what's happening with the animals that they had in that facility?
Gone, I think.
They're all gone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
Okay.
Gone to another
No
part.
issues, no conflicts, no issues with that.
No.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions from councillors? Comfortable?
Maybe just one last question, if that's okay. So you mentioned that as the chair and this team of staff that you've spoken with Remarks Park and the Young family, are Remarks Park on board with potentially kind of, I mean, I know it's our land and it's a reserve management plan, but are they on board with any kind of collaboration with the land adjacent to the reserve and how that can kind of tie in with their developments?
Yes, thank you, Brianna.
He's just
Through you, Chair, Councillor, we've been working alongside the Remarkable Parks and actually one Mr. Brian Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Regarding he's actually the point of contact for us on that, and they're looking at ways and means that they actually engage their piece of land that would actually back onto some of this reserve, not all of it. And as Brianna rightly pointed out, they're also looking at some innovation around transport links, including the use of the waterway. So they would very much be a key component of what we would see as part of the wider consultation and how we take this forward. But that's not, we will do our piece separately, but they are certainly looking with a view to the future about how they activate their land parcels. I haven't got any detail of what that would look like, but we can certainly follow up. But and the team have met with Brian as I have last year towards the end of, middle of this year. And we can certainly and we will continue to work alongside them to understand how they're looking to activate those spaces.
Thank you.
If it's all right with you, Chair, I'd just like to come back to through you to Councillor Wong. I think, Councillor, it's a really important point, and as the Chair and other councillors have acknowledged the heritage and history of this site, the team have been really, really sensitive to that and working with the family. And they did just naturally get to the end of the expiry of that lease. And we've certainly been working alongside them over a very long period. And they concluded that and elected not to take it any further. So I think it's a very good point you raised, but there was certainly no conflicts. It's just seen a natural expiry, and the parties have met and concluded that lease as part of that discussion.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
I've got loads, but I'll save them for another time.
Rightio then. In front of us is the resolution this morning. I'll just repeat that the Community and Services Committee, 1, note the contents of this report, and 2, recommend to Council that a notice of intent is published advising that a reserve management plan for the Riverside Road Reserves is to be prepared in accordance with section 41(5) of the Reserves Act 1977. Do we have a mover? Councillor Whitehead. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Wong. All those in favour, hands up. No one opposed. Carried. Thank you, staff. Thank you, councillors.
Thanks.
Thank you, GM. Thank you, Sarah.